Okay, we don't have any idea.
We're live.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hope everybody's doing great this morning.
And we have to do the good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Oh, that's right. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world.
And Hans, thank you for the 14 million people from Norway who are joining this morning.
Yes.
We can't see the chat window yet, so I'm going to sneak out and go find the chat window.
Okay.
Chat window's outside somewhere.
Okay.
So I'm going to get Audrie kicked off as soon as we get her into screen sharing. And today, actually, she's kind of doing almost a continuation of what Greg was actually doing last week. Greg was actually looking at the references and the things that are going to actually enable you to succeed using the reference guide. You actually are taking a look at what our customer support people and our customers have said and taken and gleaned that into actually a set of best practices.
Exactly.
And I think there are how many?
5.
There are 5.
There we go. Yes.
And we're going to go through those 5 best practices. She is on my computer, so we've got it all open. I think the presentation's ready. So why don't we go ahead and you introduce and Alt-Tab. And when I see you in slides, I'm going to step out. So
okay.
Go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to PowerPoint just for a minute, although we're not going to spend any time in PowerPoint.
We need to share
screen.
Yep.
So hold on. We're going to go back to Google Hangouts.
Pictures of us. And it's over here in the green. There, exactly right.
And I'm going to say share. And then I'm going to Alt-Tab before you get dizzy. And there we go. So this is still a getting started series. So those of you that are advanced, tip 4 and tip 5 might be a little advanced, but for the most part, this is for new app makers. How can you take some best practices or some tips that'll help you make apps faster? That's what this is about. Now, before I get started, I always like to explain, for those of you that may not know, what PowerApps is. PowerApps is a software as a service. It is used to create custom business applications across platforms. And what I mean by across platforms is you create one app and that app instantly works in the browser. It instantly works on iOS. It instantly works on Android and Windows Phone. And if you want to throw it up on a Surface Hub or a big touch screen, you can do that too. It's quick and easy to make apps. It involves 3 big steps that are really easy to do. Step 1 is to connect to data. So sometimes you'll connect to existing data and sometimes you'll create new data, but whatever data you have, you'll connect to it from PowerApps. The second thing you'll do is you'll build the apps, and apps are made up of controls, so forms and screens and workflow. But you'll do all that without needing to write any code. And then finally, you'll be able to instantly publish those apps, which means you don't have to go deal with a monitoring app store that may make you wait 3 months to get your app live. You can publish your apps to your organization, to your business, and to the people that you want to receive that app instantly when you are ready to do so. So this is hugely an empowerment tool to help us innovate faster. The business application platform has basically 3 tiers I want to tell you about. This tier that I'm working in today is called the Power User tier. And this is where we find PowerApps in the center under the ACT model. So PowerApps helps you to do transactions such as create, read, update, and delete in data sources that you select. Power BI to my left is helping us to measure or to analyze that data. And Microsoft Flow to my right is automating processes that don't need me to do. So I can do more even though I'm configuring less, right? So these 3 work together like a family, and they enable power users to build very sophisticated solutions or very simple solutions that will drive forward things in their business. Now, that's not it though, because we also have a pro dev layer. And this is where Power BI, PowerApps, and Microsoft Flow have integration points for developers and IT pros. And here's where they can leverage Azure and SQL Server Business Intelligence or Azure Functions and BizTalk and all these other exciting things such as Internet of Things in order to extend the functionality of the apps built by power users. They provide a simple Swagger file to the power user, and now the power user can also leverage those advanced technologies. Finally, we leverage all of this on top of a common data model, which exists everywhere. And if we use the common data service, will be able to make an app in one environment and carry it over to others. And you'll hear later on about App Source, which is a place where you can make apps and share them with all of our users in the world, in Office 365, in Dynamics 365, and also in Azure. So this is really going to grow the scope of what ISVs and SIs can deliver to the business. And also, finally, we talk about connectors and gateways. And this is our opportunity to connect to other software as a service or to on-premise scenarios. And so have a full solution that doesn't really have the boundaries that we have lived in the past. So I really love what PowerApps is able to do for us. Speaking of connections, I want to start tip 1, all about connections. So tip 1 is about thinking outside of the box when it comes to how to put data together. Now, you'll see the images I have here, but also think of, those of you that know about Microsoft Flow, which is the automation behind these processes, Microsoft Flow often teams up these connections in their templates. You can do this as well in PowerApps. So this first one up here is SharePoint plus Office 365. SharePoint plus Outlook, so creating something in SharePoint and spitting it out to a list. Or the Office 365 users in SharePoint can help you pre-populate your forms with all the profile information of the user. Dynamics 365, how many of us in the past have built custom solutions where SharePoint and Dynamics CRM came together, and it took CSOM to get that going on. Now we just connect to Dynamics data. How about Wunderlist and Trello? I have a task in Wunderlist. I tag that task in a certain way, and a Trello card is made for my DevOps team. I can take Visual Studio and combine it with Zendesk, so that if I get a bug that's not really a bug, it's break fix, I can escalate that bug to my Zendesk team, and they can handle that break fix request. All of these kind of connections, and this is when you're familiar with that last one, that 6th one, where you can actually just select a template that will take all your attachments that you receive in Outlook and put them in OneDrive. So, I mean, this is what makes PowerApps really interesting, because for the most part, you have apps for a lot of Microsoft's products. You have an app for SharePoint. You have an app for OneDrive. But when you bring these things together and you put them in context with the business, things change. So notice on the right here, this is a small app that I made for myself. And this app combines the weather with my Wunderlist. And basically, I made this app for me because it has only what I need when I wake up in the morning. I want to know what's going to be like outside, and I want to know how many tasks I have in Wunderlist that are due today. So I combined my MSN weather with my Wunderlist data, and I got an app that's better than either of those are independently. So this is what it is about combining data. Bring data together, extend the value of your application because you put things in context with things that are related to it. So I really love that about PowerApps. My favorite connection is actually Office 365 users. And I want to take a minute to kind of show you what Office 365 users does in case you haven't used that yet. So I'm going to bounce over to PowerApps. And I'm just going to create a brand new app, a blank one. And I'm going to add the Office 365 connection. Now, again, I could add this to an app that already had SharePoint data in it, that already had Dynamics data in it, that already had Salesforce data in it. Any kind of data can already exist in this app before I add this connection, or I can start with it. But either way, I can leverage it alongside other data. So I just want to go over here. Notice that we give you these little bubbles. So those of you that are new, you can just next through them, and they'll kind of give you a guide around the UI. But I'm going to skip it for now, and I'm just going to add a data source. When I add a data source, what I'm going to do is, and I think I already have this one, I have an Office 365. Let's see. If I just look down my list of pre-existing connections, let's add it fresh because I didn't see it. If I look at my connections, these are all alphabetized when I go add connection. And so I look for Office 365 users, and I just add that. Now, there's nothing else I need to do, and this is an easy connection to make, because after I've added it and it's visible in my data sources, there's really nothing else I have to do for that connection. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert a text input box, and I'm going to set the default of that text input box to my email address. So all I have to do is go and get that connection, and then when I hit a dot at the end of the connection, it gives me what I can get. I can get my direct reports, I can get my manager, or I can get my own profile information. In this case, I'm going to get my own profile information, and I'm just going to get my, so again, the dot helps me find all the things that I'm looking for. I'm going to get my mail, okay? So now, in a second, you will see it go and look up my mail. Now, if I wanted to, I can use this kind of thing with within my forms. So I could have a form field that defaults in the same exact way. And notice that I use the default value. That can still be changed, and I'll show you that in a minute. But in here, I want to show the manager's name. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to choose that Office 365 users again, and I'm going to choose manager. And basically, the manager of whom, notice above here, you'll see that it's giving me some syntax help. It wants the user principal name or email, right? So I just can go and get that first text input box. So was it a text input? Yep, text input 1, and then text. Let's think about that for a second. And then I want the display name. So basically what I'm saying is, give me the manager of the person in the that's shown in that text box above. I'm gonna try to hide this. So you can see here, that's my manager. He's awesome. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that because I used a default value here, I can change this and put somebody else's name here. So let's try my manager. Sorry. And you can find out who his manager is, which is awesome. So it's really cool that Office 365 users enables you to kind of query through the profile information of your tenant. So no matter what app you're using, you'll be able to, let me just go back to PowerPoint here. You'll be able to use that to fill in fields, to pre-populate data. So it's one of my favorite connections because it always helps me. I gave you the link there that explains the entire syntax for Office 365 users. And on the bottom here, we have just recently released brand new docs that explain every single connector. This was released by the Connections team. They're great. And you can go to that link there in docs.microsoft.com and find out about all the connections and what properties are involved in those connections. So kind of tip 1, expand your thinking. Don't just rely on one data source. Kind of think of how you can integrate other data sources, and you'll increase the value of your app. Tip number 2 is saving time. You don't have to do spend a lot of time in formula bars. You don't have to spend a lot of time adding controls. We're actually giving you a lot of shortcuts. So these two I really love. So whether you're in a phone format or a tablet format, you can use the insert tab to get to new screen. And when you click on new screen, you get pre-formatted controls automatically added for you. So again, I want to go back and kind of show you this because I'm really personally blown away by how easy this makes life. So I'm going to go back to Office 365 and back to PowerApps. Let's see, we want to go back, and we can go back into the same app. You see here where I have new screen. I can easily add data using this new screen. So let's add some data so that we have something to play with. So I'm just going to add a OneDrive connection, which will give me access to some Excel sheets that are on my OneDrive. So let's connect to my OneDrive. It's going to my OneDrive and looking for all the Excel files. What's important, though, when you're sharing Excel data and you want to use those in your app is to make sure you format your ranges as tables. If you have questions about that, put that in the chat and we'll get that answered for you. So let's pick Let me just pick a data. Let's pick this flooring estimates. And I'm going to add that. So this is one of those data sources that we have on guided learning. So it's kind of a no-brainer, kind of a, it's a flooring company and they're selling different kinds of flooring. And so I add that data. And now I'm going to add a new screen and I say, I want a gallery for my flooring estimates, right? So as soon as I add the gallery, notice how quickly I'm going to get this finished. First of all, because I use new screen, I automatically get built in for me all the formulas needed for search, for sorting, and for new items. So automatically, look at that, it's all configured for me. I don't have to figure out this formula. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly change the data source just by clicking above over here on the options panel and choosing flooring estimates. As soon as I've done that, it's basically where it needs to be, but you know what else I might do, because we've recently added themes back into the web browser. I didn't know if you knew that. I'm going to go ahead and give this an interesting theme. Let's try this one. So basically, 3-4 clicks, I have my gallery with my flooring tiles. And I can name that page that. And basically, this already works. Like if I try to search for something, I can search for hardwood. Let's see what we're searching for. So this is a tip. Here's another side tip. When you're worrying about your search, you need to check what it's searching for. So let's click on our browse gallery here. And then we're going to actually check our search. Let's check our search. I think we... So I will come back to you on that because we got to do it one more time and I'll show you what happened. So we eliminated the search because we changed the layout, but I'll come back and I'll talk to you about that at another time. Right now, I just want to keep going to show you how easy this could be. I can also add a form screen. So I'm going to go ahead and add a form screen, and I can also connect this form screen to the same data. After I connect it to the data, I can choose which fields I want, and then the fields that I pick basically will come up in the order that I click them, which I think is always good to notice. So if you want it in a special order, click it in that order and you'll be good. I'm also going to go in here and show you something I love too that's recently come out, and that's snap to columns. If I want this to be 2 columns wide, I can just change it to 2 columns wide.
That's nice. When was that introduced?
That was just recently.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Yep, I like sharing that new stuff. And if you want to span, it's okay. You can just drag and span the 2 columns if you want to, and it will adjust the rest of it. So sometimes I will span even though I am snapping to 2 columns. But again, 3-4 clicks, these new screens really help a lot. You can even just get a scrollable screen that's blank, but it has that banner at the top for you. It carries over the theme, and you can add whatever you need. So I totally love what they've done with that. Okay, so that's tip number 2. Take advantage of the new screens. Tip number 3 is about the new Screen Explorer. So, and some people call this a tree view, but this is a new way of looking at the controls on our screen. So let's go back and look at this a little bit. So if I go up, let's go back up to screen. Well, let's go to screen 2 because we had more stuff on here. So let's suppose I wanted to select this image. Now, in the past, I might have gone click, and then I might have gone click, and then I might have gone click, right? Well, I don't have to do any of that. I can just get myself to the right screen, which by the name I can rename if I want to, which would be a best practice. So let's name this flooring selection screen, and you can keep these shorter than what I'm doing, but just to show you how easy it is to rename screens. But then I want to find the image. So we've kept the icons so that you can find things easily. So you can see here's the icon refresh on this screen. Here's the icon sort up down. So we did some naming for you when it comes to those new screens that are defaulted. But you can also look into the screen. You can see this is indented the browse gallery, and you look for that image icon, and you know that's going to select that image for you. And of course, I can rename that image tile, and now it's very clear what that is. And I suggest you do that when you're building apps. Go ahead and rename your controls. Now that that's easy to do because of this new Screen Explorer, you should make a practice of doing that, because somebody might follow up and want to edit your app, right? Now, another thing that's easy, this app could have 10 screens, and it might take me a while to scroll through there. So if I want to get to all my images really quickly, I can go into the search area and just type image, and all of my images will come up. Or I can type gallery, depending on how. And notice that even though gallery is not at the beginning of the object name, it still goes and finds the word gallery in everything that I did. So you can get really smart with your naming so that nobody loses controls along the way. Another thing that I like is it can help me find hidden things. So I'm going to just click on this, right? And I'm going to say, I'm going to go here to the visible property of this, just for fun. And I'm going to say, if category equals carpet, which I need to put in quotes, then false. So basically what I'm saying is, don't show this if the category is carpet. Otherwise you can't show it, right? So notice in my gallery that everything that has carpet, you don't see that second one, but you see it on the one that isn't. Now here's the problem. Carpet is my tile. It's my template. So how am I going to select that thing that's invisible? Well, real easy now, right? I just go to the Browse Gallery and I click on Subtitle and bam, it's selected. So these are all beautiful ways of getting you to the place where you want to be quicker, so you don't have to spend so much time playing around. I really love this. You can also copy and paste, so you can copy an object from one gallery to another or from one screen to another. You can delete controls easily. You can rename them. Up at the top, if we go into the screens, they also have a way to duplicate and delete, to move down one, and to rename. If I'm lower, it'll move it up. You can see that in there. So this is awesome. And you didn't lose what you had before. So those of you that are worried that you lost the thing that you love, just toggle back over and you get back to the original screen format. So you can just bounce back and forth and do whatever is necessary for what you're working on at the time. So I love that. That's one of my favorite new things that we have, and that's tip number 3. Take advantage of the new Explorer View tree view, because it really helps save time.
Filthy Pete says that's awesome, and he loves the layout that you've actually designed so far. He says, kudos to your design.
Oh, good.
Vivian earlier asked, how can she actually go out and filter her data set by time? I don't know if she's watching your video or she just asked random questions, but Phil Seamark actually covered that last Thursday.
Okay.
So Vivian, watch Phil Seamark's presentation, and he does walk through filtering data sets by time.
Okay. So. All right. Good question, though. I like the question because we need to filter by many different things. So tip number 4 is styling your apps. And, you know, when you think about Microsoft Word, those of you that have done any technical writing in the past, you think of Word, you think of pages, you think of styles, because what do styles do for you? You change something in one place, and now it just ripples through your entire app. Well, we can build PowerApps with a view to change by leveraging this ability as well. So I'm going to go back to PowerApps, and I'm actually, in this case, going to open a different app. We don't need that. That was just a bunch of sample stuff. And I'm going to open a new app. And on this new app, I'm going to add one of those scrollable screens, and I'm going to add a button. Okay, so now for the most part, in my styling, which I'm not going to get deep into design, although those of you that are interested in design, let me know, put that in the chat, because I plan to start doing some videos soon about some design practices, right? So I want to have 2 colors on all my screens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another screen. I'm actually going to add another scrollable screen, and I'm going to entitle this screen Color Palette. Okay, and then I'm going to create my little color palette. So I'm just going to take some circles, just because I like circles. Maybe I'll do that one. And my main color is going to be, let's do this exciting. I want to say my main color is this ugly green. And just to underscore, but I'm not really trying to design here. And then my secondary color is going to be this pale peach, or whatever that is, right? And so I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to take advantage of this again. In my screen view, I'm going to rename this Accent 1. Now, of course, I could totally make that A1, but I want this to be really clear just because a lot of software says accent 1, accent 2, accent 3. So now it's clear this is accent 1 and accent 2. So now in my screen where I have my rectangle, which I can easily select, I'm going to set the fill on this to, how those of you can probably guess, accent 1 fill. And I'm going to set the fill of my button, if I can find it, to, and I'm sure you can guess this time even faster.
Accent 2?
Yeah, accent 2 fill, okay? So now I'm actually gonna duplicate this. Let's pretend I finished filling out the middle of it, but I'm gonna duplicate the screen as many times as I need to. So now I have a couple of screens, right? So I might rename my screen. This might be my screen display. I'm not gonna waste time building a display screen though. And this is my screen gallery. So let's just say. Now, my boss comes down, he says, I hate the green. You need to change the green. I have 20 screens like this, right? I'm just gonna go down to accent 1 and I'm gonna reset that. And by the way, guys, these little funky colors, you could use whatever. You could just say light cyan, or you can say green, or you can say real color names actually work. Some people don't know this, right? So I'm gonna just put pink just because I'm weird, right? So I made accent 1 pink, and I'm gonna make accent 2 brown. Okay, now guess what happened to my screens? So I'm gonna use this other one to get in there, and notice. Now, did you notice that for a second it looked like it wasn't changed? And that's only because the refresh for screens is a slight delay, but instantly those screens changed. Now, what is really cool about this, guys, is you don't have to use accent 1 in your app. You can actually use a data source that has a color and look up that color from your data source, then change it on SharePoint, for instance, and your whole app changes without you even having to open it. Think about that. Woohoo! Yes. So think about that with text colors, with font sizes. Think about that with accents. Think about it with borders. Anything that you can set as a standard, go ahead and create yourself a palette page, set your standards, and base everything on that, or create a data set in SharePoint that you can look up to, and then change those colors there on SharePoint. I've actually done that in SharePoint before because I had a customer that kept changing colors on me every 30 minutes. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to enable you to change colors. And so I gave him a SharePoint list. He changed the colors, and he was having fun watching his app change. Kind of fun. On here on the bottom, you'll notice that I did a blog recently about giving consumers. So what I'm talking about right now is for you app makers. But how about if you wanted to give consumers a chance to pick their own color palette or to pick their own text size, right? You can actually do that, and I did explain this in this blog. You can see it in this gift here, where the app is running live. This is not a maker UI. This is the app running live. They click on the little configuration icon, and then they select either they want full color, or they want grayscale, or they want white on black. So this is a really good idea if, for instance, your users are outside, maybe the lighting changes. It would be better for them to change to a different color palette. A good way to give your users a chance to do that. Go ahead and go through that blog because you'll be surprised. It's not a long blog. This is really easy to do. Okay, so that was tip number 4. Any questions on tip number 4?
Daniel says, really nice. Keith and Daniel both said they would love to see design sessions later on. Mohammed, could we create app support Android or iOS by using PowerApps? I think Mohammed may have not actually been playing with PowerApps yet, or very much.
Okay.
And of course, Mohammed, the default is to actually make mobile applications in PowerApps. That's the default scenario.
Yeah,
so.
You make one app, it already automatically works on iOS, Android, Windows Phone, your top browsers, and any large devices such as a Surface Hub. So you have all the formats in one app build. All right, so here's tip number 5. Now for you advanced users, you might like this one, right? I'm going to leave plenty of time of questions, so don't worry. How much time do we have left?
We have 30 minutes, so you're doing good.
Good. Okay. So this one, I want to kind of talk about this a little bit. So when you're making apps, one of the things that helps the app to perform well is to not have too many controls, right? So a lot of times we'll make an app. Let me just show you an app that I made. Let's see, my PowerApps. Okay, I'm going to close this app. And anybody on the call went to Data Insights Conference?
Sandy's on the call. Was Sandy there?
Yeah, Sandy was there.
Yeah, so
she was there and making it happen. So, yep. So we did an app for Data Insights called a Data Insights Raffle app. And that app basically started out making 6 screens, right? So each screen had a different question, right? So this is common when you're dealing with apps, and I might be in the wrong environment to show it to you, but imagine any app where you have a single screen for each thing that you want to do. So you might have a screen for open, you might have a screen for close, you might have, and what you've done is you've got a gallery or a form that's filtering on that open on that screen. Well, there's a way that you could maybe just have one app that instead of having 5 screens only has 1 screen, and then you pass a parameter and make that 1 screen work for everything. So I just want to kind of show you that so you can see it. For some reason, I'm not seeing my most recent apps, but let me just open this up. Okay, so I have these screens. Forgive me for having put this together quickly. They're not intended to be real apps. It's just to illustrate this point to you. So let's suppose I had in this particular data source, it is just a collection, if I remember correctly. So let's look at the view menu and let's look at data sources. Yeah, so there's a collection in here that's loaded, and it has this data in it. And what I can do is like have a screen and have each screen kind of sort and end up with 5 screens, because there's a lot of data here, so it wouldn't work in just one gallery. So I might have a screen for number 1, a screen for number 2, a screen for number 3, and that means that I have more controls, because then I have to have 6, 7 controls on each of those screens, which makes 7 times 7 is 49, right, Chuck? Screens. Yes. But here's a way you can handle this differently. If you set up your screen, this is where everybody's going to go, right? And you basically just say, let's see if I can get the data to pop up here. I've passed ID 1 into the screen, all right? And let's look at that button click together. So I'm going to go back to the button, and notice here I have a navigate to screen 2, fade. But then as far as the question that is in my data set, look up question ID equals 1. So basically it's looking at the collection and it's finding the ID that's 1, and that's what it's going to show on that page. In this case, you're seeing the last column. Okay? So I pass that into the next screen. I could also pass the second ID. We're using the same exact thing, and now that's ID number 2 going into the second screen, right? So now this is ID 2. Now if I let me see if I can add this ID number so you can see it. Change this to ID. And all I did was copy and paste, and I probably would in real life kind of rename this item ID or something so I could easily find it. But yeah, you see that's ID number 2, right? If I go back to screen 1, I think I configured this, yeah, and I click here about ID number 1. Now, take it one step further. How about I don't need to change screens at all? I pretend I'm changing screens. So this next button looks like it's going to the next screen, but in actuality, it's adding 1 to the ID. And we can scroll through all of our items. The user thinks they're going from screen to screen, but in actuality, we're only dealing with 1 screen. So there are no other screens. So this is a handy kind of way to reduce the number of controls you have. It also helps you to do other things when you want to pass a parameter into like a display form, or you want to pass a parameter into a gallery or into a control based on something a user selects. I really think this is awesome, and give it a try. I know it's an advanced feature, but I really think it works well when you're trying to reduce the number of controls in your app and when you're trying to increase performance, make it work faster. Any questions on that?
Sylvester was asking, is there a place that he could go out and download a gallery of applications that have different examples like this, you know, like what they have on—
Who said that?
Sylvester.
Sylvester, I love you, Sylvester. So let me tell you why I love your question so much. We are right now building that gallery. It should be released in a couple of weeks, right? We are working on giving you sample apps that come from our samples, first of all. So you'll see some of our sample apps in that gallery with the explanations of how they were built, which is something you guys asked me during 3 webinars ago. So we got that implemented right away. Then we'll be inviting you, as you learn new things, to contribute your own apps and your own best practices. So you'll get to engage with us and actually empower the community with us. So I'm looking forward. We'll continue to add apps to that gallery, and we'll also look forward to seeing what apps you add.
Perfect. And Baklat just joined. I'm sorry if I destroyed your name. And says hello.
Hello, Bakla. Nice to see you, Bakla. So just to go over these real quick, these are the 5 tips I suggest. Tip 1, right? And then we'll go into questions and answers and demos if you want. Tip 1, combine data sources. Use more than one data source. Be creative a little bit, right? Because you'll extend the value. Because somebody could say, I already have a mobile SharePoint app, or I already have a mobile Trello app, or I already have Outlook Mobile. Well, do you have it with your Wunderlist items and with your service request tickets that you have left overdue? Do you have it with all of that? Well, no, I don't, because there's nothing customized like that for me. Well, that's the point of PowerApps, customizing apps to your business scenario. So now you can do whatever you want. Now you've got a completely white box. So that's number 1. Get into the connectors. In the beginning, they're a little challenging unless you start with the ones I have at the top here. So if you start with the top 3, it'll be really easy for you. As you move into some of the others, you'll look at the connectors documentation, or you'll reach out to our forums or even me to get help. But I want to see you combining data. It increases the value of your app. Secondly, take advantage of all the new stuff we're giving you, right? The team is working so hard to give you things that you don't have to do so much configuration and less formulas. So use these new screens. Now you will notice there, I do remind you that you get an extra screen in the portrait that you don't, in the phone format that you don't get in the tablet. But at least you get them. And as time goes on, we'll be adding more. So don't worry about that. Just take advantage of them. I love using these because, again, search is integrated and tabs are integrated. And we're going to go back and look at that problem I had earlier because we have time so that you can see what happened there. Now, tip 3 is the new Screen Explorer. This is really awesome because it encourages best practices, right? You're going to be able to name your controls. People are going to be able to find them even if they're hidden. And life is just going to get easier. So try your Screen Explorer. Don't forget that you can toggle back and forth. We're not taking anything away as we give you new things. And then next, remember, you can style your apps just like you can style a PowerPoint or you can style a Word document. You can style a Power App, and this will get better over time. But this is the tip that I'm giving you. I've used this tip. It's helped me to edit better because I build with a view to change, because there's nothing guaranteed as solidly as change, right? So you'll build your app today that will change. Build with a view to change, and change will be easy. That way you don't have to click on every object and change things. You can just build on something that you set up as a standard, right? Try the runtime color changes. It's kind of fun to give your end user a chance. I think one of the things I did in that blog also was enable the end user to increase font size. So that's kind of a gap fill while you can't pinch and zoom in a phone. You could at least increase the font size using that little slider. Okay, and then finally, for you more advanced users that are building applications of maybe 10 screens or more, try and see if you can limit the number of screens and the number of controls by passing parameters to the next screen. This way, you can get more done with less screens and less controls. So before I open it up for question, I just want to go back and kind of show you what happened earlier, because I don't want you to be confused. So we had made a new app, so I'm going to do that again. And I'm not going to save that one I was playing around with. And I'm going to enter a new screen called list screen. And I should have added the data source first. That's a best practice. Add your data sources first. Make sure you have the data you need to build your app. And then I'm going to add my Office, my OneDrive for Business. And I'm going to add back the flooring, okay? So that you can understand what happened there, because I really want you to understand so you don't waste time trying to figure it out on your own. All right, so now I've added flooring, and now I go in here, right? Now here's what I did before. When I clicked on this, you notice you automatically have search configured for you, which means if I run this app on this based on this sample data, search is automatically working. Well, let's see, what's it based on? Okay, it's based on the subtitle, okay? So it's already working. Now, when I click on this and look up here, I can change what field is actually being used for search. In this case, it's the one called sample text. If I click on it, it's highlighting that subtitle. That's what happened. Now, what I did is I added the data. I think I added the data first. So let's add the data. So now we have the right data in there. Notice that when I added the data first, the items property removed the search configuration. Now, here's the good news. We just recently added undo to the web browser, so you can actually undo in the web browser now.
And flows, and you can add flows now to the web browser.
And you can add flows. That's over here. Insert. Where'd it go?
It's under action. Why are we not seeing it? They were there.
Trust me.
Promised me.
Flow is there. I haven't used it. That's why I can't find it. But trust me, it's there.
I will send a tweet out with it.
Yeah, send a tweet out with it. Okay. So if instead I'm gonna change the layout here. Now notice I changed the layout first, and then this doesn't change. All right. So now I'm going to go back up here and change the data source, and it still takes it out. So this, guys, I'm going to be completely transparent, is something we're going to fix. So we're going to fix it, but be aware of it. So here's what you can do. So this is what you can do when you're home and you're doing this and you don't want to have that experience, is go ahead and take this and X, right? Just X it out, which means you've kind of removed it. Put your data source in there. Remember your data source name is flooring excrements. Paste it back in. And then change this sample right here in your copied and paste thing to flooring estimates, and you'll be good to go. Now I need to change this too, because flooring estimates doesn't have a subtitle. I think it has, let's see, hold on a second. Let me undo one more time. I've done this before. This is my workaround on this one. Okay, so there's flooring estimates. It has overview, name, and category. I believe I'm going to have to try to avoid. And you know what you can do to make this best? Okay, so let me tell you the right way. Okay, and here's me just kind of helping you figure this out together. I'm going to just go into somewhere in my machine and paste that down. So let's go to Notepad and paste it down. Again, we're going to get this fixed ASAP. And now I can actually replace this, which is just the sample data, with flooring estimates. Should work. Okay, and I don't have that anywhere else. And then I want to sort, I want to change it by, I want to search by category. So I'm going to change the sample title, which is the one that it's searching by, to category. And now I can just paste this up there, and all should be well. Let's run it in tech. So what did I search by category? So hardwood, I believe it's a category. It's working. Okay. So guys, we will sometimes need to fix things, but there's always a workaround. And if you need it, come to the forum, come to me. I'll help you get the workaround. We will get this fixed, but I wanted to be transparent about it so you're not trying to figure it out on your own. So now we're going to open it up to questions.
You know, we've actually been handling most of those throughout.
We have? Okay.
Yeah. So Frank said that another great example of where to find those apps is the partner showcase.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
yeah, let's go and look at that.
And then also Sylvester mentioned his next thing is to go out and take the EDX course. So why don't we let everybody know about the brand new EDX course that we just launched yesterday?
Okay.
Sylvester, thank you for the reminder. We would have forgotten otherwise.
Let's see if I can find it real fast. PowerApps. I don't have a shortcut. Here we go. So what I did was I went to edx.org and then I searched for PowerApps, and you'll see there's a free course about developing business applications with PowerApps in Microsoft Flow. And you'll see I'm also one of the instructors there, but you'll meet a lot of my peers that are just awesome, that have worked very hard to get this free course out there for you. So give it a shot. We're going to be updating it very shortly, though, because our UI is changing rapidly as we give you what you asked for. So expect that some things will be changing, and we'll get those replaced. You know, we'll get the screens replaced and everything so you can see things as they are today. I'm going to bring you to our community real quick and point out that you still have guided learning there, which is also a free guided learning course that includes getting started and, you know, creating an app for SharePoint, for instance. And if you click on the titles, you can just walk through this course, which has video training and so forth to help you get started. But I want to invite you also to come into our community and get involved. You know, go to the forum, post questions if you have them. If you've got ideas for better things and better ways of doing things, we want to hear them. We're very open to your ideas. So go ahead and post them on PowerApps Idea. And join our community blog. If you're a SME or if you're an advanced or even an intermediate or a new user, share what you learn on the community blog. You can come in and I can help you share what you know. We'll onboard you there. And then the very last thing is the webinars. So if you like these kind of events where you can talk to us and chat with us via Google Hangouts, come to this page and you'll always, under Learn Webinars, you'll be able to find all our webinars. Very soon, you'll notice in the left margin a webinar gallery where you'll be able to click on that and actually see the videos and play them in line on page. That's coming also.
And they can add their own.
And they can add their own. That'll be coming really soon. We're working on that for early July, okay? So you already know about the blog. Feel free to like this video, subscribe, and so forth, and visit us on Twitter. We have 2 accounts on Twitter. We have PowerApps and we have me, which is RC PowerApper, and a whole lot of people actually contributing to Power App content. We are determined to equip you to make apps that mean business. So, any final questions before we close this down?
So Daniel actually has a question about the app switcher. Let's see if we understand it. When you're in PowerApps, you can use the left side to switch to another Power App. Can he disable that?
Okay, one more time, sorry.
Okay, so Daniel had 2 questions. Can you disable the app switcher? And I said, Daniel, which app switcher are we talking about? When you're in PowerApps, you can use the left side to switch to another Power App. Do you know what he's talking about? Why don't we take that offline? Because
yeah,
it sounds like
we might have to take that offline. I think you mean when you don't have an app opened, you can just, look at the left navigation and open a different app.
Okay, got it.
Is that what you mean?
And that's actually part of our basic navigation, our basic
yeah, the base navigation.
So that you're not going to be able to disable. So that's kind of how we designed it. But if we have it wrong, obviously, you can get a hold of Audrey or myself through this chat window. Also, want to let you know, here in the U.S., it is actually 4th of July next weekend. So I am, there we go.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit next to you so we can sit next to each other.
Okay.
I am actually out fishing, and we're going to go out and watch fireworks.
Yes.
What are you doing the 4th of July?
I'm fireworking and picnicking. And
where at?
In Salish Lodge.
Salish Lodge.
You can come meet me out there.
Very
if you want to
nice
come out there, we'll do a little picnic with PowerApps twist.
We'll actually create a launcher. I actually know IoT, so we can actually create the launcher of PowerApps. Make it go. All right, guys. So that's it for us for 2 weeks. So we'll see you back in 2 weeks.
All right. Have a good time and enjoy your experience.